NFL DFS Cleveland Browns Pittsburgh Steelers Showdown Slate. Tonight for FanDuel and DraftKings, lineup analysis and lineup advice for all your single game needs. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner. I'm going to do a quick 10-minute video to tell you how to play and approach tonight's single game slate on both sites. And again, this is a first look. Our full thoughts and details for every player will be in the daily plug, occupyfantasy.com, as well as our Occupy model, which ranks every player on the slate for both FanDuel and DraftKings. So be sure to check that out after you get done with this video. If you haven't already, please click subscribe. That way you're notified when our latest videos are released. And if you have any questions, comment below. We'll get back to you before the slate starts. So, upon first glance tonight, let's be honest, it's a garbage slate. Not great. Browns, Steelers. So Cleveland is a 3-point favorite at home. Low total, 41.5 points. And there isn't much value to help us, especially in low-risk lineups. And there's some interesting pricing, especially at the receiver position, and a particular running back is also interestingly priced. So let's jump into it. So for low-risk contests, what we generally like to do, if you've watched any of our videos or if you read any of our content at occupyfantasy.com, is jam in both quarterbacks, both running backs from both teams to try to lock up the scoring, right? So if we try to do that tonight, let's just say we go, we'll go the cheapest quarterback here just to see if it works. Rudolph, Mayfield, Chubb, Connor. That leaves us $3,500 per player. Let's go down. Both defenses, which we'll probably want in a low total game, especially in low risk contests, they're pretty expensive relative to our remaining salary. So $5,200, $4,600. Both kickers also above that average remaining player mark. What if we get creative and put the Browns defense in captain, and then we go back to Mason Rudolph? $4,300. That does leave us with a kicker. However, we're without the Steelers defense, which I suspect will be popular tonight, given the fact that they've scored double-digit DraftKings points in 7 straight games. They've returned a touchdown in 3 of the last 4, and pretty high floor tonight against Mayfield. Mayfield is expected to face the second most pressure of the entire week, close to 37%, and that generally leads to fantasy scoring for the defense. So pretty tough decision to exclude the Steelers from your low-risk DraftKings lineup tonight. So again, given all of this, we'll have to exclude one of these main 4 high floor plays, and that always makes it tough for low risk. And it's even worse on FanDuel because you definitely cannot, because those 4 high floor plays are the top 4 price guys on the slate: Mayfield, Rudolph, Connor, Chubb. If you try to put all of them in, you got $1,500 left per player, and that is not possible on FanDuel. So you'll have to leave someone out there. It's not something we like to do. There are some underpriced guys, but again, you're not looking for volatile positions like tight end and receiver in your low-risk lineups. So what tonight will probably be is an exclusive low-risk night. Only high risk tonight. We'll see if something changes throughout the day, and maybe in the daily plug we'll document if anything changes. But for now, as of 9:30 a.m. Eastern, I would play just a handful of lineups tonight very cheaply. Do not overexpose your bankroll. Try to take some shots. Good night to try to pick up some satellite tickets on some cheap entries. That's the brutal and honest truth. We're not going to tell you to play cash game lineups when they're not optimal or they're not expected to return value, and tonight's one of those nights. So with that in mind, high-risk contest, how do we approach that? Low total game, that generally means you want the running backs in your captain spot. So Nick Chubb, I think, will be pretty popular tonight. This guy is, 20 carries in 4 straight games. Even the return of Kareem Hunt didn't deter his value. A lot of people thought that Hunt returning would take away touches and snaps from Chubb. The 2 weeks prior to Hunt returning last week, Chubb only played 60% of the snaps. This past week, he played 81%. Hunt still got in on 50-some% of the snaps. What does that mean? That means there are a lot of 2 running back sets. So we'll see. If somehow Pittsburgh gets up and is up by double digits in the second half, then maybe Hunt will play more than Chubb based on the game script, but that seems unlikely. So both guys are in play, and even in the same lineup potentially. if they use them similarly to last week. Where you'll have to make a decision tonight is with the Pittsburgh running backs, because we do not get any discount on running back 2 Jalen Samuels. If you look on FanDuel, Samuels 10,000, while Connor is 14,500. On DraftKings, Connor, the most expensive player on the slate at 10,800. Samuel's all the way up at 8,800, the 5th most expensive player on the slate. Now, here's what you have to do. You have to think about it this way. If Connor is splitting carries with Samuels tonight, it's very unlikely Connor hits value in high-risk contests at that price tag on both sides. If Connor is getting the majority of the workload, it's highly unlikely Samuels hits value on either site. So what do you have to do? Tell yourself a story. If Connor is going to get the majority of the snaps and carries, you should probably have 0% Samuels. If you think Connor is going to split the workload, you should probably have 0% Connor. Just the way it's going to work tonight. So we believe that Connor will get most of the work. If you look at the practice reports, he's off the injury report. If you look at the ineffectiveness with Samuels and some of the other running backs in the ground game the last 2 weeks. And if you look at the last game where these two guys were healthy together, Connor played 80% of the snaps. So that would be the way we lean. However, we're looking for hashtag chaos in high-risk contests. What if this is a wildcat game like we saw against, what was it, the Chargers that week? Or what if it's just a split workload in general and Samuels gets all the passing game work? So you have to tell a story tonight, and your high-risk lineups have to reflect that. You have to make a huge stance on Samuels and or Connor tonight. Other positions to look at, Odell Beckham at receiver on our underperforming wide receiver list. We talked about it on last night's podcast. If you haven't listened to that, definitely go check it out. You can subscribe in your favorite podcast app, search Occupy Fantasy, or just click our YouTube channel here. We uploaded the video yesterday talking about underperforming wide receivers. Odell Beckham, insane amount of usage the last couple of weeks. Jarvis Landry has been getting all the love. Landry's even more expensive on FanDuel as a result. Landry 12, Odell Beckham 11.5. Hopefully most people look at Landry's game logs and play him over Beckham. However, we have a very, very good reason, aside from the underperforming receiver list, a very interesting statistic that we're going to put in the daily plug on why you should play Beckham over Landry. So be sure to check that out. Final thought, the Pittsburgh receivers, we're at the 8-minute mark. We're almost there, 10 minutes. So we have Juju, 8.6 on DraftKings, Deontay Johnson, 6.4, James Washington, 5.6. Now, if you look at the last 3 weeks, if you look at target share, they're pretty much equal, all between 15 and 17%. All three of them have a touchdown. James Washington performed the best last week, although Juju was shadowed by Jalen Ramsey in that matchup, so that may have had something to do with it. But the most important metric, we believe, is air yards. Higher air yards equals higher value targets. And as a result, Juju has had 33% of the air yards over the last 3 weeks. Washington has 28%. Deontay Johnson has just 17%. So I would use that to kind of guide your high-risk allocation tonight. So I think that'll do it. That's a pretty good first look at tonight. Again, we'll go in depth on a lot of these guys and what your exact high risk and low risk, if it applies, strategy should be tonight in the daily plug, occupyfantasy.com. That's our write-up every Thursday and every Monday that I do for the Showdown slates on FanDuel and DraftKings. So be sure to check that out, occupyfantasy.com. Members only. Access as little as $2 a week. So you can certainly afford to read that. Occupy model is up and running for the slate. It ranks every player on the site, on both sites, FanDuel and DraftKings. And if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button below. Get notified when we make a new video. Like this video if you appreciate it. And if you have comments on how we can improve, or if you have questions about tonight's slate specifically, hop in the comments below. I'll answer them. Any questions you have about tonight's slate, if you just leave a comment, I'll get back to it before the slate starts at 8:20 tonight. All right, that will do it. For me, I'm Brian Jester. Be sure to follow me at Brian Jester FF. Follow us on Twitter at Occupy Fantasy. We appreciate you listening. Good luck tonight, and we'll see you soon.